year, on the last Monday of May, businesses throughout the country shut their doors. The U.S. Postal Service halts its mail delivery, and flags are raised in honor of Memorial Day. Most Americans know Veterans Day in November is to honor all those who served their nation in war, and Memorial Day in May is dedicated to honor those who have lost their lives serving the country. But Americans don't exactly know how the holiday started, and who can deny these days it's all about the 3-day weekend, having fun under the sun. To the surprise of many Americans, this all-American holiday has its roots in unexpected places. The go-to story is Commander-in-Chief John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic issued the 1868 proclamation declaring the first Decoration Day, which was celebrated with a large memorial observance at Arlington National Cemetery, with about 5,000 attending. Those attending placed small flags on the graves of veterans. General Ulysses S. Grant and his wife presided at the ceremony. Logan credited his wife, Mary Logan, with the suggestion for the commemoration. The role of his wife may explain why Grant's wife co-presided over the ceremony. But the idea of Memorial Day has other roots, going back at least to 1864, in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. Approximately 620,000 soldiers died, about 2/3 of that from disease. The work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. Researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration on April 25, 1866, in Columbus, Mississippi, when a women's group, the Ladies' Memorial Association, decorated the graves of both Union and Confederate soldiers. In a nation trying to find a way to move on after a war that split the country, states, communities, and even families, this gesture was welcomed as a way to lay the past to rest while honoring those who had fought on either side. But in recent time, some historians have pointed out another overlooked side of the story to how Memorial Day came to be. The story of freed slaves who had once decorated soldiers' graves. According to Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight's 2001 book, Race and Reunion: The Civil War in American Memory, a commemoration organized by freed slaves and some white missionaries took place on May 1, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, at a former planters' racetrack where Confederates held captured Union soldiers during the last year of war. At least 257 prisoners died, many of disease, and were buried in a mass grave. So African-American residents of Charleston decided to rebury them and give them a proper burial. In approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African-American Charlestonians reorganized the graves into rows and built a 10-foot-tall white fence around them. An archway overhead spelled out "Martyrs of the Race Course" in black letters. About 10,000 people, mostly African-American residents, participated in the May 1st tribute. Starting at 9 a.m., about 3,000 school children paraded around the racetrack, holding roses and singing the Union song "John Brown's Body," and were followed by adults representing 8 societies for freed African-American men and women. Pastors delivered sermons and led attendees in prayer. James Redpath, the white director of freedmen's education in the region, organized about 30 speeches by Union officers, missionaries, and African-American ministers. Participants sang patriotic songs from the likes of America and We'll Rally Around the Flag and the Star-Spangled Banner, etc. In the afternoon, 3 white and African-American Union regiments marched around the graves and staged a drill. Blight wrote in Race and Reunion, "The tribute gave birth to an American tradition. The war was over, and Memorial Day had been founded by African Americans in a ritual of remembrance and consecration." But while this ceremony can be called the first Memorial Day, it wasn't repeated and was soon nearly forgotten. The origin story that did stick involves the 1868 call from General John A. Logan. 3 years after Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant to end the Civil War, General Order No. 11 was issued by Commander-in-Chief John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic, which was a group of former Union soldiers. The 1868 order designated May 30th as Memorial Day for the purpose of strewing flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, hamlet, churchyard in the land. Originally called Decoration Day, the first national commemoration of the holiday took place that same year, where former Union General and future U.S. President James Garfield gave a speech at Arlington National Cemetery. We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. On May 30th, 1870, General Logan gave an address in honor of the new commemorative holiday. In it, he said, "This Memorial Day, on which we decorate their graves with the tokens of love and affection, is no idle ceremony with us, to pass away an hour, but it brings back to our minds in all their vividness the fearful conflicts of that terrible war in which they fell as victims. Let us then all unite in the solemn feelings of the hour and tender with our flowers the warmest sympathies of our souls. Let us revive our patriotism and love of country by this act, and strengthen our loyalty by the example of the noble dead around us." So now we know Memorial Day began being recognized on a national level in 1868. But the idea wasn't original to General Logan either. The village of Waterloo, New York was designated as the official birthplace of Memorial Day by President Lyndon Johnson in 1966. By signing a presidential proclamation, the federal government officially recognized a ceremony that Waterloo held a century earlier in 1866 as the beginning of the United States observance of the holiday. That year, the town's residents prepared wreaths,